Okay. All right. Welcome to the top 10 at 10. Your host, Dan Wright, right at BrandonWright.com. And these are the top 10 stories. Story number 10. This is from The Hill. Democrats' new coal headache. Yesterday, the EPA announced there would be a 30% reduction of emissions by 2030. The Environmental Protection Agency's new rule on carbon pollution is the latest headache for Democrats trying to defend a fragile Senate majority. With many vulnerable Democrats coming from energy-producing states, Republicans argued the Obama administration's call for power plants to cut their carbon emissions by 30% would cost local jobs and increase energy prices. Comes on the back of a study put out by the Chamber of Commerce that said this would cost billions a year and kill, I think, 224,000 jobs ultimately. Democratic candidates in coal-rich West Virginia and Kentucky were among the first to try to distance themselves from the president after the changes were unveiled Monday. In West Virginia, Senate nominee Natalie Tennant promised she would stand up to President Obama, EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy, and everyone who tries to undermine our coal jobs. Democrats' path to keeping their 6-seat Senate majority depends on protecting seats in red states like West Virginia, where the coal industry is one of the state's primary job providers. There, Tennant is already at a disadvantage in the open seat contest against GOP Rep. Shelley Moore Capito, largely because of Obama's dismal approval numbers. So this could affect maybe this decision will affect the Senate outcome. Not that, I mean, it is the planet after all. But yes, sure. Story number 9. This is from The Nation. $1 billion Port Authority heist could be the final nail in Christie's coffin. Two former close aides to New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Jeffrey Chiesa and Deborah Gramiccioni, both of whom worked with Christie when he was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey before becoming governor, have been subpoenaed in an investigation into what looks like to have been an illegal maneuver to secure a cool $1 billion in Port Authority funds to rebuild a roadway in New Jersey. And it's this, if it has legs, and not the lane closing scandal that could end up doing the real damage to Christie's political future. Acting as though Bridgegate and other scandals were behind him, Christie sought to recharge his efforts as head of the Republican Governors Association last week, making appearances and organizing fundraisers to help the re-election efforts of the 3 GOP governors. All of it, of course, is aimed at renewing his 2016 presidential hopes, but the possibility that the bubbling scandals will burst to the surface and derail those hopes mounted as federal and local prosecutors expanded their investigations behind the scenes. Yeah, there's a lot of scandals going on all at the same time. And there's a pension fund scandal, there's this fired prosecutors, there's this new scandal on the Pulaski Skyway. It's I just can't see him. Plus, more importantly, the state's had its bond rating downgraded 6 times. So I mean, if he's running as a fiscal conservative, good luck. Story number 8. This is from Jacobin. Power play. The conditions that radicals now face are profoundly different from those that previous generations confronted. Being a leftist today is a lot like playing pinball. Every machine has 2 flippers with a gulf between them. They used to knock balls toward bright and shiny bumpers. When a collision inevitably occurs, the bumper can propel balls all across the board. For a little while it looks and sounds promising, a lot of noise and flashing lights. Sometimes the ball stays up for a while, racking up point after point. It feels like it's never going to come down. But blink and it's over, nothing changes. The fact that the playing field itself is tilted downward. With a gap between the flippers, it's only a matter of time before the ball passes through and the game is over. Okay, that was just tortured metaphor, but okay. In other words, we confront a frustrating paradox. Across the country, there's no shortage of inspiring activity, low-wage working, organizing, North Carolina's Moral Monday protests, immigration reform efforts, marriage equality and LGBT rights campaigns, local electoral pushes such as Kashmir Cons in Seattle, and many others. Most of these projects give voice to widespread unease over rampant inequality and near total capture of the political system by elites. Yet even where these campaigns achieve victories and make tangible gains, the balance of forces and tenor of discourse, particularly when it comes to questions of political economy, continue to move rightward. In this context, what is the political role of socialists in the United States? How should we meet this moment to break out of strategic impasse? This sort of a thought piece on, what to do about the fact that progressive activism seems pretty weak. Interesting read always from Jacobin, so check that out. Story number 7. James Risen, I will continue to fight. It's from Pointer. The Supreme Court won't intervene in the case of New York Times reporter James Risen. Scotus blog reports Risen asked the court earlier this year to review an order that he testify in the case of someone accused of being a source. I will continue to fight, Risen said in a statement to Pointer. An appeals court rejected Risen's bid last November. Jim Risen is a groundbreaking national security reporter who continues to do powerful work, Times executive editor Dean Baquet said in a statement. Journalists like Jim depend on confidential sources to get information the public needs to know. That the court's failure to protect journalists' right to protect their sources is deeply troubling. I guess he's either going to go to jail or testify, but this could kind of be the end. Also interesting, I guess I'll make this story number 6. This is for Kevin Williamson at the National Review. Retract your disgusting and transphobic op-ed on Laverne Cox. The Chicago Sun-Times recently published a disgusting and transphobic op-ed entitled Laverne Cox is Not a Woman. This embarrassing piece, writer Kevin Williams repeatedly refers to Laverne using male pronouns and goes on to discuss his anti-trans and homophobic ideas. Mr. Williamson seems fixated on Laverne's genitalia and says regardless of the questions of whether he has had his genitals amputated, Cox is not a woman, but an effigy of a woman. Gender is not construct detailed by the sexual organs that were designed at birth. Trans people are not at an overwhelming disadvantage when it comes to things such as job placement. Okay, so it was clearly, if you've read the article, it's incredibly, it's meant to be offensive. Most of Kevin Williams' stuff is. He's a troll, basically, which is okay. But there it is. So some people want to have it retracted and see what they get. Probably not much. Story number 5. Israel, U.S. sanctioning terrorism by obeying ties with Palestinian Unity Government. Israel officials, this is from the Jerusalem Post, Israel officials charged that the United States had sanctioned terrorism after hearing late Monday night that the Washington planned to establish ties with the newly sworn-in Fatah-Hamas Unity Government. Quote, if the U.S. administration wants to advance peace, it should be calling on Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to end his pact with Hamas and return to peace talks with Israel. Instead, it has enabled Abbas to believe that it is acceptable to form a government with a terrorist organization. By the way, a terrorist organization Israel helped create. Purposely to divide the moderate secular Palestinians, or the more moderate, I should say, secular Palestinians from other Palestinians. Hamas was founded by Mossad, and they played an active role in fomenting it. They liked it. They liked the divide and conquer strategy. Israel's ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer, posted a message on his Facebook page which said that with suits in the front office and terrorists in the back office, the unity government should not be business as usual. Israel had hoped the U.S. would reject the newly formed interim Palestinian government, which was sworn in on Monday. Story number 4. Washington Post. Female named hurricanes kill more than male hurricanes because people don't respect them. People don't take hurricanes seriously if they have a feminine name, and the consequences are deadly, finds a new groundbreaking study. Female named storms have historically killed more people because neither consider them as risky nor take the same precautions. This is sexism that kills. Researchers at the University of Illinois and Arizona State University examined 6 decades of hurricane death rates. According to gender spanning 1950 and 2012, of the 47 most damaging hurricanes, the female named hurricanes produced an average of 45 deaths compared to 23 deaths. And male named storms, or almost double the number of fatalities. The study excluded Katrina and Audrey, earlier outlier storms that would skew the model. That's interesting. The difference in death rates between genders was even more pronounced when compared strongly masculine names versus strongly feminine names. There you go. I don't know. If I hear hurricane, I want to run for it, but some people apparently take female names seriously. You know. Story number 3. That was a good time for that to break. Matt Miller, which hat is he wearing? This is from the Republic Report. Out of a crowded field of candidates hoping to replace retiring Representative Henry Waxman is lost in Los Angeles, Democrat Matt Miller has attempted to distinguish himself by touting a variety of experiences. Miller's campaign advertisement lists his various positions as a radio show host, education expert, former Clinton administration official, and business advisor. As he announced his candidacy, Miller took a leave from Washington Post and NBC, where he was a columnist and contributor. What has been widely reported is his other, what the hell that is, his other breadwinning job, PR consultant. Ethics forms filed by Miller to the House Clerk's office, standard procedure for any candidate for Congress, revealed that Miller received $239,000 from Burstyn Marsteller, the influence of public relations firm, in 2013. So he used to be a PR consultant, apparently. And, not putting that out there. Corporate consultant. So he apparently, when he was writing columns, there's a question over whether he disclosed his, I guess, compensation. Story number 2. Seattle OK's minimum wage, $15 minimum wage, is from Politico. The Seattle City, or actually Associated Press, the Seattle City Council unanimously passed an ordinance Monday that generally increased the minimum wage in the city to $15, which would make it the highest in the nation. The issue has dominated politics in the liberal municipality for months, and a boisterous crowd of mostly labor activists packed the council chambers for the vote. Mayor Ed Murray, who was elected last year, had promised in his campaign to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. A newly elected socialist city council member had pushed the idea as well. There you go. Put socialists in power and see what happens. $15 minimum wage. Of course, that's some people's nightmare. So, and the number 1 story, going back to the EPA coal announcement. What's interesting, okay, so they announced this 30% reduction. Chamber of Commerce says it would cost $15 billion a year and kill 224,000 jobs. But it's actually a much, 30% reduction by 2030. But here's the point. The power plant regulations the Obama administration will announce today are far less ambitious than the proposal McCain offered in Oregon in 2008. They're less ambitious than the proposals Newt Gingrich championed. And they're far less than what's required to keep the rise in temperature in 2 degrees. So it's not actually going to stop global warming or climate change. Even if President Obama is able to overcome Republican opposition and enforce these rules, is this really a victory? the plan does not actually stop climate change, and also one also has to wonder if enforcing these rules is a compromise or pretext to smooth the plan for authorizing the Keystone XL pipeline. Aha! That's all I can say to that. Whoops, that's not where I want to go. We go here. And that was a top 10 of 10. If you have a story you'd like me to feature on the top 10 of 10, please tweet me at DanSWright. And be sure to read all the stories at FireDogLink.com. Thanks for watching. See you later.